With patch 1.8.0 around the corner, we just got the patch notes update today, so we'll be going over that. We do have information regarding the new content, also some buffs and nerfs to some weapons. Hey everyone, welcome back to another news segment for Throne and Liberty. Today we're going to be going over patch 1.8.0. And as always, this patch will be dropping on Wednesday night, going into Thursday morning at 10:30 p.m. PT. I will include a link to the full article in the description of this video. If you did want to look into this yourself, please be aware that the actual body of this article does not include everything. You will need to watch that video. There is information left out of the article that is in the video, and also vice versa. There is some information in the article that is not in the video. All right, so what are we getting with patch 1.8.0? Patch 1.8.0 will be bringing the long-awaited 2-star dungeons. Now, this isn't to be confused with tier 2 dungeons, which we will be getting at some point next year. This is an addition to our current tier that we have right now. And the items that will be included in these dungeons will be the field boss gear, the world boss gear, such as like Tevent, Mordecai, Chernobog, things like that. It'll be gear that those bosses drop minus the weapons. Unfortunately, if you do want those weapons, you will have to still go out and do these bosses or be in a guild that can do these bosses weekly. Now, unfortunately, the thing that it doesn't mention in this article is the 5th dungeon. There are actually 5 2-star dungeons in Korea, not 4. In the video, if you watch it, they do mention that there will be another 2-star dungeon that is releasing late or early December, about December 6th, I believe it was. With that being said, it was the dungeon that contained the pants that the current field bosses drop or the world bosses drop. So we're unsure if those pants items will be moved to the 4 dungeons we're getting tomorrow, or if unfortunately we won't be getting those items until December. It isn't clear. They did not specifically state. The only thing we have is this line here where it does say rewards for 2-star dungeons include all existing 2 and 4 piece set bonus equipment as well as new accessory items. So that makes me believe it will have the pants, but as we've seen from previous articles, when Amazon tries to explain things for Throne and Liberty, it is hit or miss on them doing it properly. They did also let us know what the power requirement will be to enter these dungeons, which it will be 2500 CP. If you've been playing the game since October, you should be at 2500. It actually does not take too much effort. If you are starting in the game relatively recently, you can hit this fairly quickly. By the time you hit max level, which is 50, you should be about 1600, 1700. If you do those tier 1 dungeons, 1-star dungeons that we currently have, and get a few pieces, be they blue or purple, and trade them even just a little bit, you can quickly get to 2500. Something they do not mention here that they do mention in the video, we will be getting trial dungeon. These are, if you've played World of Warcraft, kind of like mythic dungeons where you can do +1, +2, +3. We will be getting that in December as well. So if you do like doing mythic style dungeons that increase difficulty, we will be getting that and you can try your hand at it. There will be leaderboards for this, so you can climb rank and show off your skills there. They did also mention there will be no requirement in terms of currency to get in or to acquire any reward from them, so you can just do them all day, every day if you choose to. Going further down in this article, we will be getting a new feature called the Sprouts and Sages. If you've played Final Fantasy XIV, this is kind of your Sprouts and Mentor program, where the mentors are veterans of the game that have achieved certain points in content. They will get an icon for themselves to indicate they know a fair bit about the game and can help new players through dungeons or with questions they may have. And then Sprouts or new players will also get get an icon indicating that they are newer players and maybe need some assistance. That way some players can know, hey, this is a new player, maybe don't be as toxic towards them, be helpful, things like that. I don't know if there will be any rewards tied in with these systems. I know in 14 with the mentor program, you do get some mounts, you get some rewards as you do more mentorship activities, but for this, they haven't stated if there is a reward. They just listed how you would unlock if you wanted to be a sage, which will be these requirements right here. Nothing too bad. I don't know if these are retroactive. They did not state that. If they are, then a lot of us actually will already have this unlocked. If they are not, it shouldn't take too long to actually unlock a sage status. And then same thing with the sprout. Once you've actually achieved this criteria, you will no longer be a sprout. With that system, it looks like they're also going to be including a new sprout text channel, so you can talk with sprouts and sages, as well as a like button, dislike button that maybe like Facebook, YouTube videos and stuff like that have to indicate that, hey, this sage was helpful, they were positive, etc. That way you can kind of rank sages based off of your experience with them. I'm not 100% sure on this. You can easily abuse this and kind of just downvote people you don't like and upvote people that may not be helpful if they do end up tying rewards for being like a higher ranked sage, things like that. So we'll have to see how this works. It may not be anything, it may be something, we'll see. All right, coming over to the second big part of patch 1.8.0 for Throwing Liberty is the new weapon, skill, and balance changes. This will be the second most anticipated thing outside of the 2-star dungeons. So let's see what they have changed, what they have buffed, nerfed, how people are going to feel about these changes. So it looks like the big changes that we'll be receiving is actually changes to specializations themselves for a majority of the weapons. Coming down to sword and shield, it looks like we're really just getting a cooldown reduction specializations for Stalwart Bastion. Nothing, drastic there, but hopefully that 15 seconds will help the tanks out a bit. What would be helpful is if they would actually explain how tanking contributed to field bosses, but that's something for a different video. Coming down to Greatsword, more of the same. We're getting some cooldown reduction to Blood Devotion. I'm not sure what the cost of this currently is, but it looks like it will be 5 points. And then coming down to Devoted Shield, Precision Dash, and Vital Force, it appears that these are just some bug fixes, some tooltip adjustments, and no actual changes to how the effects work themselves. Coming down to Dagger, I don't know if these buffs are deserved or not. Dagger is a staple for small scale PvP right now, even for large scale outside of the flash wave spam. A lot of people run daggers so they can do one dagger sleep bombing, so they can nuke the backline, things like that. Dagger is highly used, but it's really just for the thundercloud bombing, so I'm not sure if they should or shouldn't get these buffs. Let me know if you're a dagger player, how you feel about them getting buffs, or people who played against daggers frequently, if you think that they deserve these buffs. What Dagger has received is a buff to Vampiric Strike. It will increase the base damage and the healing that the skill provides. They've also buffed Frenzied Sword Dance, which is a new specialization for area damage, which increases damage to all enemies within 3 meters of your arrival point by 60%, and it costs 3 specialization points. And then they've also buffed Knife Throwing, which increases the debuff applied that reduces the healing that target receives. With some of the healing adjustments that we'll go over a little later with some of the longbow and wand skills, this I'm not sure how I feel about them increasing how much healing reduction some of these skills are getting. It may be a little too aggressive, but we won't know until we test it out, so we'll find out after the patch goes live. Coming down to the crossbow, It looks like they have moved some of the specializations around in what they do. For example, currently the Selfless Diffusion removes CC. They removed that and instead moved it over to Mana Exchange, where Mana Exchange now has the specialization to remove CC at the cost of 7 points. They also buffed Explosive Trap, increasing its base duration, and then having the specialization further increase its duration as well as Multi-Shot, decreasing Nimble Leap's cooldown by 15 seconds when you use it. I feel like with these buffs to Crossbow and Dagger, we're gonna see a uptick in Crossbow Dagger players. Not like there isn't enough of them already, but be prepared to see a lot more of them out there. Coming down to Longbow, which is what I currently play. Actually, the next 3 weapons are all the weapons that I play, and I don't know how I feel about some of these changes. So, Healing Touch appears to have gotten both a buff and a nerf at the same time. So, it right now shares a cooldown with wand skills, with the swift healing. So if you're running wand longbow, your healing appears to have been reduced because you can't use both of these skills. It's really one or the other due to them sharing a cooldown. However, the buff comes into play that if you're in a group with multiple longbow players that use Healing Touch, and I think this might be in preparation for possible raids, the Healing Touch now stacks with other longbow users, whereas before it did not. We also got another buff in the form of Purifying Touch. They did increase the maximum amount of stacks that it removes when you cleanse a weaken effect. Now, this is some improvement they could use when they do these kind of patch notes. It would be nice if they told you what it was increased to. So just a little feedback for Amazon and Throne Liberty there. And then probably one of the most requested nerfs to longbow, or it can be seen as a buff depending on who you ask, the Devoted Shield change. So currently how Devoted Shield works is you have a percentage chance to proc depending on its level. I believe at max it's like 11.5%. whenever you're affected with a weaken, and it gives you a 3000 HP shield. When you're fighting against weakened classes, like all of these dagger builds running Thundercloud Bombing, or even the wand builds out there to do weaken, but it can also be procced by many other things. Staffs, a lot of their fire skills will do weakens with the burn effects, so you can get this proc randomly here and there. But the biggest one was the crossbow daggers, or basically any dagger build running the weaken effects will continuously proc this with no internal cooldown. So what they've done is they've changed it to only apply when your health goes below 30%. It only lasts for 3 seconds with an internal cooldown of 1 minute, and it is a 6k HP shield. So how will this affect longbow? We won't really know until we test it, but some people are speculating that it might be a little bit better, because currently, unlike previously where it was a chance for that shield to occur and it was really only on people running weaken effects, right now it's not. It's whenever your health drops below 30%, so it'll proc for everything. And because the shield has been increased, it can prevent you from being one shot depending on how much that one shot damage is and what your HP total is. If you're going out there rocking like 8k HP or something, this shield won't proc if your enemy actually hits you for 8k. You actually have to get below 30%, stop, then the shield will proc, and then if you try to get hit, you'll have that shield mitigated. If you go from like full to dead, it won't do anything. If you go from 31% HP to dead, it won't do anything. Your HP actually has to fall below 30% for this shield to actually proc. So once this patch is live, we'll see how this fares in PvP, and we'll see if this is a buff, a nerf, or anything in between. The one thing that I'm surprised didn't happen here is the Flash Wave nerf. I know that was the other thing people were complaining about in large-scale PvP is longbow users just standing in the back, spamming tornado and spamming flash waves all day, every day. So I'm surprised this didn't make it into these patch notes. So staff got an array of updates to their kit. The first one being serial firebombs now also has a specialization, kind of like Meteor did or does, where it reduces the healing effects on the target when you hit them with focused firebombs if you specialize in it. I don't know if they changed what focused firebombs does to this new effect, or if they've just added it to what focused firebombs currently has. They didn't really specify, so we'll have to find out once the patch goes live. They've also adjusted Inferno Wave if you go the lightning route to where it has 1 base activation with 1 additional when the target is wet or frosted. And then they've also changed Chain Lightning not to work with Crossbow's Mother Nature's bowstring effect. I don't know if that was an exploit that some Crossbow staff players were using. It's nothing I was aware of, but if they were, it's no longer going to be a thing. They've also fixed Ice Spear. Apparently there was a bug where the frost effect wasn't applying its full duration and it was shorter than intended. And then a secondary effect where the bind would ignore defense and resistance. They've also provided a specialization change to Judgment Lightning, which now consecutive uses has a 80% chance to debuff shield block chance by 30% for 4 seconds. They've also buffed Infernal Meteor across the board, so this might actually take the place of the Ice Spear alternate build that people are running. Because currently, if you take the Infernal Meteor and go with the Hellfire Rain, its radius is fairly wide, and sometimes even the meteors will actually extend outside of that radius indicator. So it looks like they've kind of narrowed that down. So even with bosses with smaller hitboxes, this might be a better route to go. It looks like they've increased its damage across the board, and then also the specialization that reduces healing, it looks like they've buffed that as well. They've also buffed Frost Master. Now when landing a basic attack, it inflicts a frost effect on targets within 3 meters for 3 seconds, but it does not stack. Coming down to Wand, we do have some appreciated buffs here in my opinion, but maybe they could have done it a little bit better. Let's go ahead and see what they did. So, Clay's Salvation, the weaken removal, the only cleanse that Wand has, now removes all stacks of one type of effect instead of just 1 stack. There is an internal priority on these stacks. When you hover over the scale, it'll tell you what the priority is. And it looks like now, if you're, let's say, doing Rex Chimera, the Chimera dungeon, and he uses his fireballs to put that bird effect, and your target has 3, previously you would just do Clay Salvation, and it would remove 1, and they would still have 2. Now, it looks like if you do it, it'll just drop all 3. This is also helpful for when you are playing against the dagger crossbow players in PvP, and you get 20 stacks of Thundercloud Bombing or anything like that. 1 Clay's Salvation will actually just remove all 20 stacks from your teammates, which is super good. They've also adjusted time for punishment. The specialization Burning Time now also adds a debuff that reduces block chance. There was also a bug with Karmic Haze that allowed its spread chance to be ignored, so that has been corrected, and then they've adjusted the shield block when it's spreading. They've also buffed Ray of Disaster, that is your level 50 skill for Wand that links you in a target. Previously, if your target died, that was it for Ray of Disaster, it would be over. Now, if your Ray of Disaster still has timer left on it, if your target dies, it will transfer to a additional nearby target within 10 meters. They have also buffed the expand targets range from 5 to 10 meters, and they have also buffed the speed reduction of the movement reduction specialization from 15 to 30%, so they've doubled that. And then they're just reiterating the fact that Swift Healing now shares a cooldown with the Longbow Healing Touch. So running one Longbow may not be the way to go into the future because of that, but Longbow does bring in the utility of Nature's Blessing and some other cleanse type skills. Plus, it can also provide some decent damage, but going into the future, we may see a lot more staff wand players. Moving further down into the article, we are getting another bit of content in the form of conquest battles between servers. Using this feature, guilds who control rift stones or boon stones can participate in bi-weekly cross-server boonstone and riftstone battles. So it looks like this is going to provide some additional content for these guilds that hold these riftstones and boonstones outside of just competing with their own server's population. Now, they don't mention this, and I wish they did. There is currently an abuse for riftstones and boonstones where alliances have been disbanding before applying to contest these stones, using that as a way to transfer who owns these instead of letting other guilds compete, because the highest ranked guilds are the only ones allowed to compete. If 4 guilds apply to fight for a riftstone or boonstone and 3 of those are ranked 2, 6, and 10, and that 4th guild is ranked 19, the game won't allow that rank 19 guild to compete. It will only allow the top 3 ranked guilds to actually compete for that rift or boonstone. And since these ally guilds are usually within like the top 10, they for the most part can control these stones and just switch them around whenever they want. Coming down into some general updates, the biggest one is really the adjustment to random party matchmaking. Currently, it's set to 2 players, so if you're playing with friends and you're trying to get that random matchmaking reward, that extra chest with that random chance at a salvation token, you can only do it with you and 1 other, which is kind of annoying. It made this meta of people not wanting to play with more of their friends because of it, so they've adjusted that, increased it from 2 to 4 players now. They have also added a new chat feature in the game for alliances, which is fantastic. There is no way in the game to actually talk to your alliance outside of like whispers and direct messages or using external applications like Discord. They've also done some minor adjustments to the UI, the codex, and some tooltips. And then of course, I don't know how this got through testing, the peace mode boss portals. Some of these portals were placed within the PvP area, so their intended kind of was ruined because you had to go into the PvP area to even touch the portal to go into like Juneboat, for example, during an eclipse. They have actually moved that outside of the PvP area so you can actually click on it, because what people were doing was just spamming the portal with AoEs and hardly anyone was able to actually utilize this feature that was supposed to avoid this whole eclipse toxic, playstyle that people have been using. Additionally, what they don't mention here is some additional content they're going to be releasing in December. Like I did mention, an additional 2-star dungeon, the trial dungeons, kind of like your mythic keys, and as well they did tease a winter event. We don't exactly know what that's gonna entail. We could use the Korean reference of what they had, but they could be changing things. We'll just have to wait and see. But let me know what you guys thought of these patch notes. I think they really need to work on whoever's typing this out. They're missing a bunch of information. They're not giving enough detail on some of these changes, like the numbers specifically for some of these skills. And some information is just inaccurate, especially when it comes to like loot drops. But go ahead and leave your feedback in the comments below. If you did enjoy this video, go ahead and leave it a like, subscribe to the channel. And as always, this was Fate. Have a great day.